So in the last video, we talked about how reflection is a crucial piece that you want to do at the end and throughout the process of learning so that you can actually get better at it as you go through each content assessment throughout the year and throughout the years. And that way, becoming a better and better student, building your habits of success, making it easier for you to acquire content and likewise do well on projects. But reflection is not just the end. It's also where you begin. Before you actually start studying, think about studying smarter, not harder. And it all starts with actually reading the information that's in the actual focus area, the objectives, the key terms, and trying to internalize this is what I have to learn about. That's where you should always start. Then actually take the diagnostic exam. Based on the diagnostic, you can take some reflection. Look, I did pretty well on this diagnostic. Maybe I'm ready to even take the content assessment itself. Now, if you actually do, in certain schools, they won't just let you based on a diagnostic to pass the exam. They will actually have you take at least some notes or some evidence that you've done some engagement with the learning process, even if it is just doing a quick little quiz with the teacher. But typically speaking, you're going to need notes before you're allowed to take a test, right? There's those barriers. How can I demonstrate that I've done my learning? How can I show? You have to show by more than just passing the test. You have to prove that you're ready to go. You have to show your readiness. There's a video about that in this series as well. Now, if you do take the test and pass it, you can reflect on your learning process and decide, this is what I've done well on. That did not work so well next time. And that will help you do better next time you do this whole thing. If you did not pass, then you have to identify the parts of your content assessment that you have to focus more on, because the system will tell you this skill was low, this skill was low, this skill was high. And each of the objectives will either be green, yellow, or red, depending on your knowledge of the objective. Then you know what to focus this on more. And then you can actually use that to create new goals and a new study plan, and then do new checks for understanding so that you can take the diagnostic again and see if you're ready to take the test. When you take the diagnostic and you don't do well, that means you need to study more, which means, again, identify things that you need to learn about, make goals, make a new learning plan. Now, every time you make a new learning plan, don't just do the same thing. Don't use the same resources. Change the resources. Change the study strategy. So every time you take a test, I want to see that you've done something different than what you've done last time. I've looked at a different resource. I've studied in a different way. I changed my method. I adapted. So whether it is because you didn't pass a test or because you didn't pass a diagnostic, you have to adjust. You have to focus on the areas which are you're weaker on and change the method that you did. That's the way to study smarter, because otherwise you would just spend a lot of time trying over and over again to pass a content assessment and never getting anywhere. Another way to study smarter instead of harder is to do it well in the first place. If you make sure that you address every single key term, that you actually check that you know them all, that you can rewrite them or say it out loud without help, that you actually can explain the objectives with at least 4 key facts about each one of them. You've done the checks for understanding within the actual resources, and you can pass them. You actually met with your teacher. You showed them your awesome Cornell notes, and he asked you or she asked you some questions, and you were able to answer. Then you know you're ready. But if you're just, I'm going to try this, then you're not ready. Don't just try it. Actually spend the time engaging in the learning, trying hard, using the resources, creating good notes, using the checks for understanding, taking the diagnostic again to see if you're ready, and if you are, pulling the trigger and seeing if you pass. And if you don't, you start over, try something different. So the idea is to review, adjust each time you go through the cycle so that you don't repeat the same thing over and over again. And then as you do this over and over the year and you start noticing the strategies that work for you, the strategies that don't, the resources that work for you, the resources that don't, you're going to stop wasting time and stop taking so many chances to actually take each assessment and become the kind of student that passes in the first or second attempt, which is what we want to see. All right? So see you in the next video where we're going to finish up this discussion about the self-directed learning cycle.